Carry on, Corbyn. The Labour leader denies he's the problem after a humiliating by-election defeat. Theresa May calls the Conservative win in Copeland astounding, piling pressure on the opposition leader.
Have you, at any point this morning, looked in the mirror and asked yourself this question: could the problem actually be me?
No.
Labour did manage to hold on in Stoke, a win they say was a rejection of UKIP's politics of division.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Also tonight, fans rally round Ranieri as he speaks about the day his dream died for Leicester City.
I'm very sad for them. I wish you all the best.
Killed by a chemical weapon, the nerve agents used to murder the half-brother of the North Korean leader. And the fast-track university degrees where students can qualify in just 2 years.
This is the ITV Evening News with Charlene White.
Good evening. A triumphant Theresa May today hailed what she called her party's astounding victory in the Copeland by-election. The Conservatives beat Labour in a seat it had held for more than 80 years. Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn admitted the result was very disappointing, but made it clear he's not stepping down. But he's not the only party leader under pressure. UKIP's Paul Nuttall suffered a sobering defeat in Stoke. We'll have more on that in just a moment. But first, our political correspondent Paul Brand reports from Cumbria on Labour's loss.
She took the first steps this afternoon into fresh Tory territory, the only Prime Minister to gain ground this way in 35 years.
Do you feel sorry for Jeremy Corbyn, Prime Minister?
Unlikely perhaps, but she was feeling pleased with herself and her party.
This is an astounding victory for the Conservative Party, but also for the people of Copeland. You know, Labour have held this seat since the 1930s. And what I think we've seen from this victory is that this truly is a government that is working for everyone and for every part of the country.
A dream for the Conservatives, and last night a nightmare for Labour.
The Conservative Party candidate, 13,748.
That was enough to take the seat by 2,000 votes and leave Labour worried once more. Today, ITV News asked their leader what many in his party are again thinking.
Have you, at any point this morning, looked in the mirror and asked yourself this question: could the problem actually be me?
No.
Why not?
Thank you for your question.
More questions?
And if their leader was avoiding questions, well, some MPs say he's avoiding reality.
This has to be a dire wake-up call for our party, and not be seen as some sort of one-off. Because, you know, frankly, I think people are getting tired of excuse after excuse when we are in a very vulnerable and powerless position as a party now.
And under bright blue skies in Whitehaven, several voters were clear with me about why they'd switched colours.
I've voted Labour in the past, but not this time. There's no way I would vote for a possible government led by Jeremy Corbyn.
Why is that?
Well, I just don't like his policies. He's taking people back to the 1930s.
He's totally anti-nuclear, in my opinion. So for him to be the Prime Minister of our country would be detrimental to Sellafield.
Tonight it seems voters here haven't just given Theresa May a new MP, but her opponent the same old problem.
And truly, well done indeed. I'll see you on Monday.
See you on Monday?
Yes.
Paul Brand, ITV News, Copeland.
Well, Labour did hold on to Stoke Central, though, after UKIP failed to make any ground in a seat that was a major target. It's a heavily pro-Brexit area, and yet leader Paul Nuttall barely increased his party's share. Our political correspondent Carl Dinnan reports on what went wrong.
UKIP were cleaning up in Stoke today, but not the way they'd hoped. In this most pro-Brexit of constituencies, with their party leader as their candidate, UKIP still couldn't deliver their long-anticipated North of England breakthrough.
I did hereby declare that the said Gareth Snell.
Labour held on with a respectable majority of 2,600. In the end, it wasn't even all that close.
Time to go, is it, Mr. Nuttall?
No, I'm only 12 weeks in, come on. We're not going anywhere, I'm not going anywhere, so therefore, you know, we move on and our time will...
Another leader who's not going anywhere came to Stoke to celebrate today.
It was a message that hope triumphs over fear.
But Jeremy Corbyn is doing terribly in the polls just now. If Paul Nuttall can't beat Labour in Stoke, what can he do?
Since Paul Nuttall was elected as the leader, our membership's up, our fundraising is up, you know, we're up in the polls. Disappointed not to have won here. But
well, his leadership is tarnished by him not winning here, isn't it?
Not at all. Not at all. You know, people that know Paul...
His first big outing was a failure.
Well, but Nigel Farage tried to win by-elections, didn't win, was an incredibly successful leader of our party. You don't have to win a by-election to be a good leader.
During the campaign, Mr Nuttall said the incorrect claim on his website that he'd lost close friends at Hillsborough had not put voters off. Those who might have supported UKIP think otherwise.
And UKIP, I think he spoilt it when he had that thing on the internet.
He conducted himself badly. He did not display the qualities of an MP.
There are also now divisions within the party about how the whole campaign was fought. So it hasn't been a good day for UKIP, and to cap it all, someone graffitied their front door. Carl Dinnan, ITV News, Stoke-on-Trent.
Well, our Deputy Political Editor Chris Shipp is in Westminster for us this evening. Chris, will Jeremy Corbyn and Paul Nuttall survive these defeats?
Well, you're right to say there are question marks over two party leaders this evening. Will they survive? In short, I think yes. Let's deal with the UKIP leadership first. Now, look, Stoke was a significant missed opportunity for UKIP. It was a seat that voted heavily for Brexit. They threw the kitchen sink at it in the form of the leader, Paul Nuttall. And remember, they didn't just miss out. They came second. They very nearly came third. And UKIP are very fond of telling us that they're the new party of the working class vote in Northern England, but every time that's tested at the polls, voters have another idea. I think we should be clear about Labour. In Stoke, they won the seat. That was a good result for them. But remember, they didn't win it. They retained a seat they held previously. Copeland, however, is an entirely different story. And you saw me attempt to ask Jeremy Corbyn today if he took any responsibility for it. He said no, as you heard. Next question. But I wonder whether the Tories have got Jeremy Corbyn where they want him. Wounded, but not wounded enough to step down. And as you said at the very top of the programme, he will carry on.
Thanks very much, Chris. An emotional Claudio Ranieri has told ITV News he was very sad for the fans after he was sacked as Leicester City manager last night. The Italian took the club to its first ever Premier League title, but now says his dream has died. Today, as the news sunk in, fans rallied round him. Our sports editor Steve Scott on Claudio's farewell.
Leicester loves Ranieri and the feeling is mutual.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So much so, he said today that his dream had died.
Is there anything you'd like to say to the fans, Claudio?
Yes, I'm very sad for them. I wish you all the best.
And in a further message to those fans later, he added, "No one can ever take away what we achieved together." He urged them to think about it every day and smile, just like I will, he said.
The amazing Leicester City!
Less than 300 days ago, they became the most unlikely champions in history. A fairy tale written by Claudio Ranieri, supposedly an impossible feat in the modern game. But all sentimentality was cast aside after Champions League defeat in Seville this week. The club's billionaire owners deciding, despite a rare Jamie Vardy goal, enough was enough. Today, the owners left Ranieri's assistant to deny outright that some players had lobbied for the Italian's dismissal.
Can you put your hand on your heart today and say all the players within the squad were fully supportive of Claudio Ranieri?
Yes, I can. What I would say is there was a lot of frustration because of results, but he hadn't lost the dressing room.
Jose Mourinho believes if Leicester hadn't won the league but finished mid-table last season, Ranieri would still be in work.
This season he would be still in the job because Leicester City is to play for not to be relegated. So it's his fault. He's paying for his success.
In Leicester, wherever you go, affection for Ranieri is not difficult to hunt down.
He has given the club personality from last season, and people love it all around the world.
This is about money and greed, to be honest. I just think it's deplorable.
Did wonders for this club. I don't understand the thinking behind it.
But in football, public opinion and goodwill only go so far, especially when you're staring at relegation and a £100 million hole in your accounts.
Last season, almost every neutral fan wanted Leicester to win the league, but given the brutal events of the past 24 hours, it would come as no surprise if the majority of those would shed few tears if Leicester were now relegated. One thing I think everyone can agree on, though, is today marks a sad end for a man who not only won the Premier League, but millions of admirers too.
OK, Steve, thanks very much. MPs are in line for a pay rise of 1.4%, above the 1% cap imposed on public sector employees. The Independent Parliamentary Standards Authority, the watchdog which sets MPs' pay and expenses, said annual salaries would rise to just over £76,000. Unions fear 10,000 jobs could go at the Royal Bank of Scotland after it announced a £7 billion loss. The taxpayer-supported bank has now lost £58 billion since its bailout back in 2008. But its boss told ITV News today that he would be taking a bonus this year. Well, our business editor Joel Hills is here. Joel, is this a reward for failure?
Well, look, the headlines suggest RBS is still a complete mess, don't they? But the chief executive, Ross McEwan, believes if you look under all that rubble, buried deep down under the compensation costs, the fines, the bad debt, and so on, there is actually a really good bank waiting to escape. He is taking a bonus of £1 million because he told me earlier the turnaround plan is working.
No, we were very pleased with the results that we put out. I know it's really hard to take a £7 billion loss, but 10 billion of that is one-off charges, unfortunately.
Will you be accepting your bonus this year?
Yes, I will be.
But you've given it up in previous years, you're accepting it this year.
Well, I think my thinking this year was the strategy is absolutely working.
So his point then is, if you look through all those one-off legacy costs, then the core bank, as he puts it, is actually made a profit last year of £4 billion. I think we can have a look at it now. Now, this is banking, so despite eye-popping headline losses, RBS is paying £343 million in bonuses to staff, down 75% though, Charlene, on 2010. Ross McEwan himself takes home just over £3.5 million for last year. Now, his promise is the bank will be making money by 2018. He's going to make sure of it by cutting costs more aggressively. I think we're going to see job losses. We're going to see branch closures. Ross McEwan said as much today. He didn't say how many would go. The union thinks it could be 10,000 redundancies over the next 4 years. We've invested £45 billion saving this bank. It's not clear yet we're going to get all that money back.
All right, Joel, thanks very much. Well, still to come on the ITV Evening News, a degree in just 2 years, new plans to fast-track students and... Saved from Storm Doris, how one fearful pensioner was helped by a passerby. We'll have all those stories and more after the break. Welcome back. The half-brother of North Korea's leader was assassinated with VX, the world's most deadly nerve agent. Malaysian authorities said the weapon of mass destruction was used to kill Kim Jong-nam in Kuala Lumpur's international airport. It's now investigating how the poison got there. Paul Davis has more.
Kim Jong-nam spent years slipping from country to country, avoiding an ever-present threat of assassination, until his life was ended by one of the most sinister weapons known to man.
VX nerve agent, which is a chemical weapon.
Malaysian investigators say when Kim arrived at Kuala Lumpur airport, the young women who wiped their hands over his face were carrying VX nerve agent, a chemical weapon so deadly that minutes after telling security staff he was feeling unwell, Kim Jong-nam was dead. VX nerve gas is clear, tasteless and colourless and can lead to death within minutes. It's the most potent of nerve agents, 100 times more deadly than the nerve gas sarin. It was developed here in the UK in the 50s as a chemical warfare agent and is believed to have been used on the Kurdish city of Halabja by Saddam Hussein's forces in 1988. Thousands of people died there. It has since been banned under the 1993 Chemical Weapons Convention, though North Korea never signed the treaty.
And literally a pinhead amount of VX will kill you very quickly.
This former commander of Britain's chemical defences believes the assassination was North Korea making a statement to the world.
Not only can we kill anybody we want anywhere in the world, but actually we have a weapon of mass destruction, a chemical weapon, and their chemical weapons program might be more advanced than their nuclear program that we've heard so much of over the last 12 months.
The fear now that North Korea could combine its long-range rockets with VX nerve agent to deliver a terrifying, dirty weapon into the heart of nations its leader sees as enemies. Paul Davis, ITV News.
The boss of PSA, who owns Peugeot, has reassured the government he doesn't want to close Vauxhall plants in the UK if his company takes over the business. Carlos Tavares, who's in talks to buy the European arm of General Motors, which includes Vauxhall, said he wants to expand production in Britain and honour existing commitments to the plants. And officers from Greater Manchester Police have tasered a blind man after mistaking his walking stick for a gun. Police were sent to investigate following reports of a man with a firearm. A taser was used, but police later discovered that the man had been holding a folding cane, not a gun. Universities in England will be allowed to offer 2-year degrees with higher tuition fees under government plans. It's hoped it will lower students' housing and living costs, although fees will rise to £14,000 a year. Damon Green heard the views of students in Leeds.
Our pressure group's good or bad for democracy, so we must make sure we've done that.
Of these sixth form students in Leeds studying A-level politics this morning, almost all are hoping to go to university. But with colleges about to get the green light to offer fast-track degree courses at a lower cost, the decision what to do next may just have become a bit harder.
It's a lot of money, it's a big commitment, and it's just a big decision that you're making with your life, so it takes a lot.
It's a really big decision, making sure that you're going somewhere where you're comfortable, where you're actually going to be able to be independent and support yourself. It's difficult.
The plans would allow English universities to increase their fees to £13,500 a year for shorter 2-year courses. That's a total of £27,000. Currently, students in England pay £27,750 for 3-year courses, but a year less of accommodation could mean a maintenance loan saving of up to £11,000. Student life in a city like Leeds isn't cheap. Accommodation like this can cost between £7,000 and £8,000 a year to rent before living expenses. In spite of that, no one I spoke to in the Leeds Beckett Student Union would prefer a year less of study.
If you're doing just a 2-year course and it's so intensive, like you wouldn't be able to play for sports teams or join societies, and there's so much more to university than just what you learn in your lectures. There's so much more to it than that.
People aren't coming to university to expand their mind. People are coming to university to make themselves into a worker. And that isn't right. That isn't what we should be here for, and that's a very, very sad world we'll be living in.
It does seem that future generations heading to college may have to choose between spending more time or more money at university. Damon Green, ITV News, in Leeds.
And finally, a touching story of human kindness during the height of deadly Storm Doris. 96-year-old Joni Mansfield was so scared of being blown over, she grabbed hold of a lamppost for dear life. And it was at that point that a young estate agent came to the rescue. Richard Pallow takes up the story.
In the teeth of Storm Doris, Joni Mansfield clings to a lamppost, too scared to move. Enter Dan Barnett, gallantly running out of the estate agent where he works.
Such a hero.
He's such a hero.
Ready to help escort the 96-year-old safely home.
Oh my God.
24 hours on, they've been reunited and are revisiting the drama of yesterday lunchtime.
And with one gust of wind, I was just whipped me off and to the lamppost. Yeah, so I grabbed a hold of it.
Weren't you?
Yeah, yeah.
I just saw you from up in the office and thought, well, I can't let you you'll never get anywhere if no one helps you. So
Did it look as though I was glued to it?
It looked like you were stuck.
Yeah. happy. I'm not quite sure how I was thinking. I was just afraid I was going to be blown off somewhere, like Mary Poppins. And then this gallant young man came to my rescue.
I offered to take Joni home and I thought, well, I might have made a rod for my own back here. I thought I was going to be walking for 10 minutes or something, but luckily it's only about 4 doors away, so...
With one good deed deserving another, Joni this morning delivered a box of chocolates to say thank you. His act of kindness, restoring the reputation of estate agents everywhere. Richard Pallo, ITV News.
Oh, if that doesn't warm your heart, I don't know what will. Right, that's it from us. Nina Hussain is here at 10, but from all of us here, goodbye.